Here we are on our descent into beautiful Akutan, Alaska. We've left at 21,000 feet and we're on descent to 8,500, which is the grid lower safe altitude. As you can see, the island's currently experiencing some pesky advection fog, so it looks like an instrument approach will be needed to get us safely to the runway. Doing this will showcase the new in-game weather and the updates to the aircraft avionics, notably the upfront controls, and also I've added in some wind that we'll have to deal with during the approach as well. Disclaimer up front, and that's that the game only has ILS from Temu, and as such it has a couple of fatal flaws. Firstly being that the localizer guidance lobes are parallel instead of converging, so being slightly off course early in the approach is fine, but being off course late in the approach is fatal. Hang on, I'll just do this first.
1-1, tower, copy. Fly heading 157. Expect runway 02 right.
Just wanted to get that clearance so it gives us waypoint guidance to the airfield.
Hang on, I'm just going to orbit here as I've been talking too much and I'm not ready for the approach yet.
So the second issue with the ILS mechanics in this game is that every runway just has an ILS automatically coupled to the runway ends, and it doesn't take into account terrain. So before you shoot an approach to an unfamiliar runway, you'll just want to survey the area in broad daylight first to make sure it's safe. I've surveyed this one already and I've just designed it with an approach to the west and another one to the east. And the approach then goes into a DME arc centered on the GPS fix that ATC gives us. And we're to the northeast, so I'll use the closest western approach. So I'll just wind the course knob around to the 070 radial. Now we use a combination of the distance readout and HSI alignment to navigate towards the initial approach fix. This is our minimum altitude of 8,500. We can't descend any further yet. I'll just get the aircraft stable, 1 second. So we're at 12 miles to the northwest. So I'll just exit this turn heading south and that'll get us roughly pointed towards the initial approach fix. Whilst we're on our way there, we just keep monitoring the distance readout and the CDI bar and just adjust as needed so we get to the initial approach fix.
I'll just highlight that we're currently above the fog and we have a nice big horizon out there to keep ourselves oriented, but
as soon as we're in it, all we have is just a little standby attitude indicator. So that tiny instrument becomes your whole world. And if you're hand flying the approach, you'll need to be staring at that instrument about 90% of the time. Just rolling out now, stabilize, and we'll see how we're tracking.
How's the Serenity?
We're now 10 DME approaching 9 DME, but we're not getting close to the correct radial yet, so I'll start arcing at 9 DME until we cross the 070 bearing, which will be a right-hand turn once intercepted. There's 9 DME, right turn. When I edit this, I'll overlay a moving map to help illustrate what I'm yabbering on about. Getting close to the initial approach fix now, and it's a good idea to have a clear idea of what you're doing before you arrive at each point during the approach. From the chart here, we're going to descend from 8,500 feet down to 2,000 and continue arc left at 9 DME. That's a lot of height to lose in a short period, so it'll be idle boards to get us down quickly. 8 DME now, so I'll need to turn right even more to ensure we stay at 9 plus or minus 1 DME. Oh yes, I didn't mention, so since we're flying on the raw data and I don't have a visual curved path to follow for this DME arc, all we can do with DME is pick a heading that we think should work, and then if the DME goes up, just turn back towards the nav aid more. And if the DME goes down, keep flying straight until it rises again. You'll end up flying a series of straight lines throughout the arc, but this is taken into account when approaches are designed anyway. I'll just start slowing down now to 250 knots or below before we start the approach. We're at 10 DME already, so need to turn back towards the nav aid. And finally the course deviation indicator, or the CDI, is alive. As you can see, it's starting to move towards the center. We've also gone out to 11 miles now, so we need to continue this turn and make a bigger cut to get back in closer. Needles approaching the center now, so this will be our initial approach fix. There's the fix, and start
Our descent down to 2,000 feet. Idle boards.
And we don't need that 070 bearing anymore. The next bit of guidance we need is what's called the lead radial. For this approach it's 024 degrees. Yep. It's still at 11 DME. Come on, Gypsy, keep turning. Come on. Here we can compare our heading to the angle set for the lead radial, and this will give us an idea as to whether we're going to get back to the correct DME distance or not. This should work well, and we may not even need to do any more arcing turns actually. The next turn we do will be just to intercept the localizer. And that's 1,000 foot to level off. When leveling off, just focus on flying the aircraft and monitoring the altitude, and this helps ensure you level off correctly and don't blow through any altitudes. Okay, leveled off and stable for now. Before we intercept the final approach path, we need to configure.
Low to 50 knots, gear down, flat full. Power. Master
Caution expected. And cancel. Now we tune, identify, test and set the ILS frequency. For 02 right, it's 105.8 megahertz. We hold off pressing enter for now as I'm still using the DME and the lead radial info. As a bit of background, lead radials are there to assist the pilot in anticipating the turn onto finals and not blowing through the center line. They're not always marked on charts and autopilots always use them, but I personally never did. For each aircraft you fly, you'll develop a good rule of thumb that works for you. In any case, I'll use the lead radial here for the sake of the video. And the lead radial is now moving on the CDI. We'll slow down to approach speed now before turning onto final. And that's close enough, let's start the turn.
Holding 2,000 feet until we intercept the glide slope.
Switch to the ILS and begin intercepting the localizer. Having the frequency pre-entered like we did avoids scrambling to find and enter when you need to be focusing on the instruments. Looks like I needed a better lead radial anyway, we've gone through the localizer a bit. Winds are 100 and 10 knots, which will be pushing me to the left and helping me out a bit. Getting busier now too, the glide slope's coming alive. We're within a half-scale deflection and established so we can intercept the glide slope and begin the descent when it's centered down to our decision altitude of 200 feet. And I'll just set up a heading to get back on the localizer from the right-hand side. Still not visual with the runway.
Descending into the cloud now, force of habit, but strobe off to avoid getting epilepsy in the fog.
I don't think it's modelled in VTOL VR, but if you're flying in cloud and have a bright strobe, the reflection off the clouds can be really irritating, especially if it's dark. Localizer and glide slope capture, commencing descent, and may take...
1-1, tower, clear to land at runway 02, right.
Landing light on when cleared to land. Aim now is just to have a stable sleigh ride all the way down. Aircraft's configured, checklist done, comms done. Just focusing on aircraft attitude, heading and airspeed to keep these two needles as close to center as we can. That's 1,000 feet to the decision altitude of 200 feet. If we're not visual at 200 feet, conduct the published missed approach. If visual at 200 feet, land straight ahead on runway 02 right. And remember, your attitude indicator is your whole world now. Looking outside won't tell you anything at all. Getting a bit low here, so add some power. If you don't know what airspeed you have to aim for, just use your angle of attack indexer. I've got another video on that if you need to know how to use it. And just keep avoiding the temptation to look outside too much. You need to rely on your instruments and you might get some false
cues outside and disorientate yourself. So just keep flying on your instruments.
Approaching the decision height, start doing some brief glances outside to see if the runway is visible yet. but keep flying on the instruments until you're certain you have the runway in sight. Okay, I can see the runway. It's 02 right, 200 foot, visual, landing. Flare, idle, kick it straight, and develop, touchdown.
Welcome back. Follow the taxi path to your parking area.
Thank you.
And there we go. It's a little bit over the top for a game like this to be shooting an ILS like that, but I certainly enjoy it. There's heaps of different types of approaches you can design for yourself. They don't always have to include, say, a DME or an arc or anything like that. You can just have vectors to ILS finals, for example, or flying overhead and then a procedure turn to get back on final, whatever suits you best. I'll probably do some videos in future of some different types of approaches.
But if you have any questions or comments, just leave them down below. And thanks for watching. Sierra 1-1, keep it signal approach.
Sierra 1-1, understood, on the missed approach, climb amended, 6,000, due inbound traffic.
Missed approach, 6,000, Sierra 1-1.
Akutan Tower, Viper 26 established.
Viper 26, good day, Akutan Tower, cleared ILS runway 02 right, Huey number 2.